share with us how this journey has impacted your views on commitment, how you reached that point in the finale where you were finally able to commit?
I don't know that I commit in the end in the finale. Uh, it was very interesting to self-reflect as we went on this journey. I definitely started out dating kind of the way I do in New York, which is a ton of people, keeping in touch with all of them at the same time, dating a little like casually, which is not how I always do it, but how I was doing it when I started doing this. And, as I was sort of failing to make a connection with anyone, I kind of thought inward more and started to explore how I was feeling and maybe what my patterns were. And that was certainly more impacted by the producers' questions when I would have interviews. And I think that's really how I learned so much, is not actually through the dating with the suitors, but actually through the interviews with the producers who had gotten to know me so well.
Oh, I love that. All right, so my next question is going to be to Kris. I think a lot of people will relate to your experience of trying to establish new meaningful connections and just putting yourself out there. How did you manage to balance your introverted nature with the demands of the dating process?
I think uh, I got really incredible examples from like Kesun, Ash, and Reagan. Like, really, I talk about that a lot on the show, and I think I thrive by like learning through example. There were definitely times when it impacted me more than others. Like you saw how upset about it I was in New Orleans, and honestly, you just have to commit and see what happens. I think there's a point at which you don't know what's going to happen, and there's a safe option and there's like a riskier option. And by going on the show, I chose the riskier option, and it would be really foolish of me not to follow through on that. So I felt like I owed it to myself, and I hope other people feel like they owe it to themselves to really to push through and try and make connections.
Definitely. I think a lot of people will resonate with that. Ashleigh, I want to speak to some of your obstacles throughout the season. In the first episode, we witnessed your identity being challenged. What message do you have for the audience who resonates with your journey and the challenges that you face relationally?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just important that you be who you are and you accept you first. And if anyone else accepts you along the ride, that's awesome. If they don't, that's awesome. And I think we live in a society of labels, and realizing you don't have to own any label. You can just simply be, and that's ultimately what I come to at the end. I think I was really emotional about it because I do find that in my dating life, like, oh, you're not this, you're not that. Like, how do we work? And so we work because I am who I am, and you either love that or you don't.
I love that. All righty. So we're going to move to Kesun. Did the exposure to diverse individuals and locations influence your understanding of what you really wanted in a partner? And ultimately, did this journey lead you to Ryan as someone you felt a deep connection with?
To be honest with you, diversity wasn't. I don't think I experienced too much of that on the dating side of this experience. Um, I think that's that's one of the challenges of dating outside of a city like New York, where it is such a melting pot and such a mixture of people from all over the world. It was a little bit of a shock, I think, for all four of us actually when we were out in the wilderness of America. Dating, and it wasn't as diverse, which is, it's not a bad thing. It's just something that actually like really stood out to us very quickly as soon as we left the city. So um yeah. Sorry, what was the question about Ryan?
Yes. So the second part of the question was, how did this journey kind of ultimately lead you to him and that deep connection you had?
I would say so. I met Ryan in the third city, and so he was the first person that I met that I actually felt such an ease with. And I think I tend to go with that when I first meet somebody, how natural it feels and how easy it is to eliminate any of the game playing that comes with the beginning stages of dating. And I never once for a second felt that with Ryan. So I think that was something that made it very easy for me to forge a deeper connection with him through that.
Alrighty. And then this question is for all. I think throughout the series, we witnessed the cast openness to explore new experiences. And I really loved you guys' vulnerability and sharing your personal stories. I think as a whole, you guys kind of shared a disdain for the New York dating scene. Has this experience kind of altered that disposition, or do you still feel the same?
Well, I certainly felt that I had pros and cons to dating in New York. And I think I learned that I just have very, very high standards. And so I think, without any spoilers, I think I had a great appreciation for New York after the New York dating scene after doing this experience. And I also had a great appreciation for the rest of America, because most of the men I went out with were very respectful and very kind, good-hearted people. And in New York, there's a little bit of a difference with, lifestyle and all of that stuff. So I think I saw pros and cons to dating in New York that were a little different from when I started.
Yeah, I would agree with Reagan for sure. Like, I think there's definitely pros and cons to both. I think overall I came home and I had a greater empathy for people that either I'm dating or, just people that are trying to date. It's so hard. And I think when you're dating, you just feel like it's hard for me. It's hard for everybody. And, I think we all feel honored in a way to be able to kind of do the deed of doing that for everyone. So like they feel that they are seen and heard on television. And so I think I have more patience now when it comes to dating, because if I'm stressed out, I imagine the other person's stressed out at trying to find their match. And it's a full-time job. Like, dating on these apps is a full-time job. And so you really realize that in doing something like this.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Kris, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I just date differently. I think you see through the show that I start really serious and in my head, and now I feel like I can have fun in almost any situation. I went on a date in New York afterwards, and it was like, oh, you can have, like, someone said to me, oh, I wasn't sure if we'd have fun. And I was like, why not? You're here, I'm here. We're both trying to have fun. Even if we don't work out, we should just enjoy this like moment together. It's a nice feeling, and I feel like actually quite refreshed and energized.
Yeah, I think it was a really good reminder for all of us on a certain level, that dating is hard for everybody everywhere. All the time.
So hard. All the time. Doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain, like Reagan said too, I think there are certain things that I took for granted for sure about the New York dating scene that I kind of was brought to my attention during this process. But I think ultimately it really is, dating is so personal, and it's an experience that not everybody is super comfortable with all the time, and so there's ups and downs to it. And I think that's kind of the thing, like, you just have to ride the wave and also listen to yourself if sometimes you want to take a break from it, which is totally necessary. Like, that is a really great thing to do as well.
And then I just have two more questions. This one is going to be to Ashleigh. Can you speak to that moment when you said that you weren't vegan? How did you feel after you got that reaction?
Honestly, I felt two things. Number one, am I being punked? Like, I thought this was the first time in the show. It was our second, location. I'm like, oh, this is scripted. They want to see what I'm going to say. So if you notice, I'm kind of looking around. I don't know if that shot makes it in. And then I realized it wasn't, and she was like dead ass serious. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, like, it's just so typical lesbian to be like, I can't date you if you're not a vegan. And I'm like, we could have texted about that. Also, this is not vegans, swiping America. And so I was kind of frustrated because I was really attracted to her and I thought we had good vibes. But I was just shook, honestly. I was just like, no way. Like, we can't even have dinner because you're vegan. And I'm like, girl, I'm vegan half the year. Like, I date. So it was funny for sure.
Definitely. And I think a burning question that the viewers are going to have is, are you guys still seeing the people that you chose for the finale?
I know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait.
We'll just give you a shimmy on that one.